You are listening to The Art of Sales. Everyone sells every day, and this is your source for conversational, real-world sales and prospecting methods that you are comfortable using and that get results. You'll help people buy instead of pushing them into being sold. Here's your host, Art Subcheck.
A question I still get every week is, how can I get past the screener? Well, I covered this in episode 5, which I suggest you check out. And the answer is, well, you don't. You need to work with the assistant. And I call them assistants, not screeners, since screeners implies something negative. So today, I want to share a few of the cheesy techniques that are still being taught out there, things to avoid, and what you should do in order to get the assistant helping you. Now, this situation actually happened to me a few years ago, and I was reminded of it when a training client told me he received a call from a guy who was using this same technique. So let me explain it. In my case, this cold caller, was suspiciously evasive with my assistant at the time. And she asked what the call was about, and he said, "Well, I'm calling him back. Will you connect me now, please?" And he was very insistent with his tone of voice. Now, my calls weren't screened, but I always did want to know who was calling and the nature of the call. So she put him on hold and came into my office and said, "There's some guy on line 1 here. Said he's calling you back. I don't recognize the name, and he sounds like kind of a jerk." So perfect, I thought. I turned on my recorder so I could be sure I had that to use in my training programs. So here was the call. The guy greeted me and he said, "Hi Art, Gary Smith here with International Investors." And then he went into this pitch on municipal bonds. So I interrupted him. I said, "I don't know you and I never called you. And you told my assistant you were calling me back." And he responded with, "Yeah, well, I called you a few days ago and you weren't in, so now I'm calling you back." So I told the truth. Oh yeah, perfect. Guy was practicing a technical truth, right? So maybe deception and mincing of words and evasion of questions and outright lies are accepted by and expected from some people, but I always believe they've got no place in professional sales. And I gotta wonder, when callers are using these tactics, what are they thinking? Oh, that the person at the other end is, if they actually get through to them, is going to congratulate them for being so clever. "Hey, nice job, buddy, on using the old it's a personal call technique." Gosh, give me a break. All right, so let's get to some things to avoid. So here are tactics that you want to avoid when dealing with assistants and on voicemail, by the way. And these are approaches that clearly indicate that the caller is a time-wasting, self-interested salesperson. First one is only leaving a name and a number for a call back. There are people that teach this, and the intention, of course, is to deceive. I mean, not identifying your company suggests that you have something to hide. Granted, it almost forces the prospect to return the call thinking that it might be a prospect or customer. And I get these calls all the time, and I have to return them because, again, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's somebody that wants to book me for some training. So think about what happens to the person on the other end of the line when they get that message. They might get their expectations up, but think about what happens when we realize that it's just a salesperson who used a technique to get that return call. That's not the frame of mind that you want somebody in. Next, making a statement, then a demand with the assistant. As in, "I need to speak to Jan Smith. Please connect me." Oh yeah, right. Let's try to intimidate the person into putting the call through. I mean, again, what are these people thinking? Next, believing the nonsense of never give the screener any information because they can't buy from you. Well, granted, maybe most of them can't make the final financial decision to buy from you, but what they can do is make the decision that no one will buy from you because your call's never going to be put through. Keep in mind what the assistant says to the boss after they put you on hold and they announce the call. You don't want them to say, there's some jerk on the line. Sounds like he's selling something. Want me to get rid of him? And they do that, by the way. Just ask somebody who performs that role in your company. All right, so what should we do instead? So here are some ideas on what you can do to enhance your chances of reaching your decision maker and getting help in the process and having more and better information when you do get there. So first, ask for help. This is the simplest yet most effective technique that I know of. And I mean, think about what is going through someone's mind when you ask for help. You appeal to their innate sense of feeling needed and wanted and important, right? Next, ask for information. Yes, ask questions of the assistant. Engage in social engineering, as I explain in my book, Smart Calling. You want to gather as much elementary, factual, qualifying information as you can before you get to your decision maker. Matter of fact, they expect you to know something about them. I mean, the decision maker's job is not to waste time educating you with stuff that you should already know by the time you reach them. You can ask questions of assistants, or anybody for that matter. So what I suggest is preface your questions to screeners and assistants, anyone, with, I want to be sure that what I have will be of interest to Kathy. And there's probably some information you could help me with. And then you ask the questions. And also what you're doing here is that positions you apart from typical salespeople who don't respect the buyer's time. Next, have something of value when you're leaving a message with an assistant. And also, by the way, if they ask what the call's in reference to. This is the not so secret to getting people to return your calls, or at least having them be in a positive frame of mind when you call back. You must have something of interest for them, something of value, something that's going to make them curious about it. I mean, why would they want to take your call otherwise? Speaking of value, your value item, your possible value, should answer the question, what will you help them gain or help them avoid? They don't care about your products or services. Matter of fact, go to episode number 1 where I discuss quit talking about your thing. Okay, people don't buy your thing, they buy the results. The assistants are going to let you through, or decision makers are going to return your call if they suspect you might be able to help them get something they want or avoid something they don't. And the more customized and relevant your value, the better. So, for example, a value statement to an assistant could be something like this. Well, Pat, we specialize in helping HR directors spend less time screening resumes of unqualified applicants. And depending upon whether or not that's an issue for him, we might have something that he'd like to take a look at. And I'd like to ask him a few questions to determine that. And matter of fact, what you can do here at the end of that is say, and actually there's probably some questions you can help me with first. And then you can go into your social engineering. Okay. So what I just did there, that also is very easily modified into a voicemail message. All right. Bottom line, do you want to get through more often and have more calls returned so you even have a chance to sell? Well, then don't sound and act like the typical salesperson who's trying to get through the screener. Okay. So, you know what time it is.
Your attitude will be never will, never fear what they say. It's the art of the sales quote of the day.
That's right. It's time for the quote of the day. And today's quote comes from Bruce Nauman, who's an artist. And he says, if you really want to do it, you do it. There are no excuses. So simple, but so powerful. If you really want to do it, you do it. There are no excuses. You'll find a way, right? All right, so many listeners have been contacting me asking how they can learn about the individual and sales team training that I offer. Well, I've got lots of options ranging from my comprehensive online audio and video prospecting and complete inside sales training programs, all the way up to customized on-site training that I deliver for sales teams and sales meetings and kickoffs. So you can see details on everything at this site, which is artsobcheck.training. So that is ARTSOB as in boy, C as in Charlie, Z as in zebra, AK.training. Okay. Okay, so hey, thank you so much for investing your valuable time with me. Until next time, go and make it your best sales day ever. I'm Art Sobczak.